Hi, it's Handy Andy Tech Tips here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can use local AI image generation models on your Mac. This means that you can generate photorealistic images, like this one, on your own computer for free. All of the data is kept on your Mac, and no subscriptions, or data centers for that matter, are required. But why would you use a Mac for this task? Recent Apple silicon chips, like the M4, are not only super powerful with excellent graphics performance, but they have something called a neural engine, which provides hardware acceleration for AI applications and can speed up the process of generating images. Now, if you're using a Windows machine, you'd need a powerful dedicated graphics card, like an Nvidia RTX 40 or 50 series card, to run image generation models with any kind of speed. And a lot of PCs, especially laptops, just have integrated graphics. Another advantage to using a Mac is that it's super easy to set everything up. My previous video was about running local LLMs with Ollama, and it's actually possible to use that on a Mac to generate images via a terminal interface. But there's also a much better, or certainly more user-friendly option, and that's an app called DrawThings. You can download it for free from the App Store, and this is what we'll be using in this tutorial. Now, when you've installed DrawThings and you have it running, it will come up with a wizard which lets you configure some options. You'll want to choose to download a model, and then click Next. And then it will come up with a huge list of available options. In this video, we'll be using FLUX.2 Klein from Black Forest Labs, which is based in Germany. Klein in German means small, and sure enough, this is a smaller model that can run on local hardware. Now, I'm going to be using it on an iMac with an M4 chip and 16 gigs of RAM. According to this table that's on the FLUX.2 website, it looks like I should use the 4 billion parameter model, which will run in about 8.5 gigs of RAM. And this leaves a bit less than half of my available memory for use by the operating system and apps. So I'll go back to DrawThings and then search for Flux. And look at this, we have so many options. There's the regular FLUX.2 Klein 4B, and then there's one with 8-bit S in brackets after it, and another with 6-bit in brackets. So what's the difference between these? Well, the 8 and 6-bit models are quantized versions, and what's that? Well, basically, the weights, or the numeric parameters that control the output of the model, are normally represented as 32-bit floating point numbers, which can have over 4 billion different values. That obviously chews up a lot of memory. But if a model is quantized to 8 bits, the weights are represented by 8-bit integers, which only store 256 different values, and this can dramatically reduce the amount of memory required to run the model. Now, the clever part is that the model still retains most of its capabilities after this quantization has happened, because the range of the weights and their relationship to one another is preserved. Now, of course, this is a very complex topic and a bit above my pay grade, but if you want more information, I'll link to it in the description. That just leaves the letter S. Well, the S means that a model has been optimized to run on the neural engine in the M4 chip. So based on all this information, I'm going to choose the 8-bit S model as it should provide the best balance of speed and capabilities for my Mac. So I'll go back to DrawThings and select that one, and then click Next. It will then download the model, and it's an 8 gig download, so it might take a while. Okay, so the download is almost done. And there we go, it's finished now. And DrawThings is asking us to create a new project. So we'll do that, and then it comes up with this main interface that we'll be working with. So let's make some pictures. You can see that there's a sample prompt at the bottom of the screen, which is weirdly about some kind of magic woman extracting forbidden spells. I don't really want an image of that, so I'm going to just delete that. What I do want to generate is a picture of a Jack Russell dog looking up at a brightly glowing neon bone on the side of a highway at night. So I'll enter the prompt, then I'll click on the little orange star icon, which will start the process of generating the image. On the default settings, it only takes about a minute. Of course, I've sped up the video here, but it goes through about 4 stages of sampling, it's called, and you can see the image slowly starting to appear before it produces the final result. and there we go. Not too bad, except the dog isn't really looking up at the bone, it's looking away from it really, but that's okay. The best part is that this image was entirely generated on my Mac, and even if I disconnected from the internet, it would still work. So now that we've made our first image, let's fine-tune some settings. I'll click on the Settings tab over here, and you can see it lists the model we're using at the top, which is good. But if you scroll down a bit, you can find the option to adjust the size and aspect ratio of the generated image, and that's what I want to tweak. It's currently making 1024 by 1024 images in a square aspect ratio, but I want to bump up the size to large, which is 1280 pixels wide, and then change the aspect ratio to 4 by 3, which is the same as most cameras. I'll leave all of the other settings on their defaults. Now, one important thing that you need to remember is to clear the canvas before you generate a new image, and that's done by clicking this little page icon above the canvas. Now, if you don't do this, you might get some weird effects. For example, this is an image that I generated based on the same Jack Russell prompt, but I made it after I had adjusted the aspect ratio of the canvas to 4 by 3, and you can see it kind of kept the old square image in the center and generated some new elements either side of it, so I didn't want that. Now, after clearing the canvas, I'll generate another image, and this one will be of an aquarium filled with goldfish in a busy shopping mall. People will walk past and point at the fish, which are swimming in the clear waters amongst the coral. Now, because we've increased the image size, it will take a bit longer to generate this time, about 3 minutes or so. And here's the end result. The aquarium and fish look good, but wait a second, what's happening over here? I don't even know what to call that. It's like a person without a head or legs kind of floating in midair, but they are pointing at the aquarium. Oh dear. Okay, well maybe it's a problem with our prompt and not the model itself. Luckily, there's a good way to make a more comprehensive prompt without having to write it out manually, and it involves using an LLM, in this case, Claude Sonnet. So I'll go to Claude and ask it to write an optimized prompt for FLUX.2 klein 4b that will achieve the best result for this scene. Then I'll paste in a variation of my original shorter prompt, and it will spit out this massively detailed one. It talks about the reflections of the storefronts, the polished floors and lighting, and even specifies a 24mm lens with eye-level perspective. So let's paste Claude's prompt in here and just see what happens. So while we're waiting for this, I opened up Activity Monitor, and you can see that we're using up nearly 11 gigs of RAM and quite a bit of the GPU. And actually, I noticed that the fans on my iMac were spinning up as well, which doesn't happen very often. Alright, now here is the finished result, and I'm sure you'll agree that this is much better. All of that extra detail from Claude must have really helped. There's still a bit of weirdness with the hands and faces, but you wouldn't normally notice that unless you zoomed in quite a bit. Well, what else can Flux do? It can generate signs, like this one for free burgers, but it often garbles some of the text, as you can see, even with the more detailed prompts from Claude. It can also make some pretty nice natural landscapes, like the one I showed earlier, and also some suburban environments, like this street on a rainy day. But if all that wasn't enough, you can also use Draw Things to edit existing photos. You can switch it into edit mode using this button near the bottom of the canvas, and then you can drag in an existing image, like this photo of Sydney in the 1930s, and as an example, I'll ask the model to colorize the image. Notice that I've used a very long Claude-generated prompt for this one as well. And after a bit of waiting around, here's the result. The colours are very, I guess you would say, fluorescent, and when you compare it to the original, there are several interesting additions. For example, in the original, there are 3 men sitting on this wall near the railway entrance, and there's a woman standing nearby. But in the colorized version, there's only 1 man and a weird corrupted-looking version of the woman. Also, in the original, this looks like a very nice ornate stone pillar. But the colorized version has a man wearing a wig emerging from the top of it. Very weird. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed learning how to use FLUX.2 Klein in Draw Things on your Mac. Despite the occasional strange outputs, it's amazing to have this level of image generation running locally on your own hardware without the need for data center level computing power. Well, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I'm Handy Andy and thanks so much for watching.